to the team of faculty. Now this particular session, Dr. Rishi. And as part of our series of panel discussion today, as I said, we are fortunate to have an international speaker to talk on a topic which is relevant today for today and tomorrow. And we are glad to see a big crowd, as I said, from 12 different countries. We have more than 420 registrations. And I'm sure it will be a meaningful interactive session with everyone. I request Dr. Rishi to take the session further. In fact, to begin with, Dr. Vaibhavi to have a short video of Navrachana University.
Pardon me for a moment.
Thank you, Dr. Javier. Now I request Dr. Sangeeta to introduce Professor Nilay Yagnik, Provost, Navrachana University. Over to you, Dr. Sangeeta.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, good afternoon to everyone. I feel privileged to welcome our Honorable Provost, Dr. Nilay Yagnik, who has been inspiring us with his infectious spirit of enthusiasm, rich academic and corporate experiences, and his overwhelming desire to see the university grow. Dr. Yagnik is an alumnus of BITS Pilani, Narsi Munshi Institute of Management, University of Mumbai, and the Harvard Business School Global Colloquium. He has worked in several IT companies like Wipro, Infotech, Digital HP, and Mastech. He has several years of teaching experience. He has mentored technology startups, served on advisory boards, and held leadership positions in leading institutes of India. Thank you, sir, for being in this forum, and extend a warm welcome to you on behalf of the School of Liberal Studies and Education team. I now request you, sir, to give your welcome remarks. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Sangeeta. Dear participants from all over India who have joined us today, it's a very large number of people who have registered today. And, as Dr. Xavier says, it's more than 400 people from around India. You will be able to watch this. Some are watching live, 100 of them are watching live. Many of them will watch on YouTube subsequently as well. So on behalf of Navrachana University, let me welcome all of you to today's very interesting session on artificial intelligence in education. I'm very thankful to our speaker today, invited speaker, Dr. Pushpanadam from the MS University in Vadodara, an expert in education of several decades. And I too look forward to listening to Sir and learning from him as well. I'm thankful to Dr. Xavier, the Associate Dean of the School of Liberal Studies, who heads also the education program, Dr. Rishi Raj, who initiated this program, Dr. Sangeeta, Dr. Vaibhavi, Dr. Valli, and all colleagues from Navrachna University and outside as well. Dear students who have joined us today, thank you so much for joining. Artificial intelligence is an extremely interesting subject. In fact, this whole topic of information technology in education is something which is very close to my heart. And, way back in 1978, I remember when I was a student at BITS Pilani, we had an excellent library. We still have an excellent library, world-class library. And, I used to make it a point to visit the library, go beyond our books, go beyond our textbook as such, and kind of gain knowledge and see what's happening around. While I was browsing through the section on computer science, I remember I saw a book, and that book was a very interesting book. It introduced to the audience a new concept, which actually was existing since 1960s. The book was by Professor Norbert Wiener of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, sometime in the 60s. He wrote this sometime in the 60s. A world-renowned authority in the new field at that time of cybernetics. Cybernetics is the science of man and machine. And that forms today the foundation of what we are seeing of artificial intelligence in various machine-related applications, whether it's education, whether it's healthcare, So that was the first thing. I also remember, as a student, as a college student, my father was very fond of computers also in the 1960s. And one such book which I remember seeing in his collection was a book on thinking machines, how machines will think, sometime in the 60s. And this book was written in the 60s. I would have seen it sometime in the 70s. And I still remember there was a photograph of a professor from MIT who had designed a thinking machine. And in that thinking machine, there was a button. So it was a machine which would learn on its own, a machine that will try and learn from its mistakes so that it doesn't get repeated again. So that thinking machine had a button called the punish button. So the teacher, when he's teaching that particular course, teaching the machine something, if the machine makes a mistake, he presses the punish button, and the punish button basically deletes everything that whatever the machine learned. So it's a punishment here. The machine has to restart learning again. Thinking machines. That is, to my mind, one of the earliest things that I got exposed to of artificial intelligence in the field of education. Today, of course, artificial intelligence is used in several areas, especially in assessment, in grading. There's a lot of, tedious work which all of us teachers have to do in evaluation and grading. This is automated now, as all of you know, whether it's multiple choice questions or there's a logic behind it, which is stored, and it's used extensively in assessment and learning. Of course, it doesn't satisfy everything. It doesn't satisfy all aspects of assessment, but it's a beginning. However, my real interest is in knowing how artificial intelligence and knowledge-based systems like expert systems, like neural networks, and of course, knowledge-based systems like AI, how they are used for teaching and learning. How can it enhance the teaching of a teacher in a class? How can it enhance the learning of a student in a class? And that is what I'm really interested in doing. And it's an evolutionary process. Today also, we are somewhere there. There are systems today which help a student to learn. So in other words, if you are looking at if you're studying a subject, if you're looking at a topic online, there are algorithms available which help you to sieve out what you are not interested in and go directly into the topic that you are interested in. There are books available, ebooks, where where the reading pace can be in sync with your capability. So what is happening today is it's highly customized. And earlier in the conventional teaching, it's 1 to say 60 students. Here it becomes one-to-one. Each student can learn from the teacher in a highly customized way. And this is one way in which artificial intelligence is moving. Expert systems is another way by which the expertise of all of us teachers is stored in a huge knowledge database, and the whole thing is rules driven. So if we are making a mistake in a certain area, the machine knows, the system knows, and will direct us to another area. So very fascinating topics. And I'm looking forward also to learning from Dr. Pushpanathan today, and from all of you, and because of the discussions that we will have today. So thank you so much, all of you, dear colleagues, dear students, and of course, Dr. Pushpanathan and sir, who has joined us today. Thank you so much once again, and my best wishes to all. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Nilay, for your motivating words. Now I request Dr. Valli to introduce our speaker, Professor Pushpanathan. Over to you, Valli ma'am.
Thank you, Rishi sir. Thank you very much. Good afternoon once again to all of you. I take this opportunity to introduce Professor Karna Pushpanathan to all of you. Dr. Pushpanathan has more than 24 years of experience in the field of teaching, administration, and research. He had completed his MPhil and PhD from MS University of Baroda. He became a professor and head of the Department of Educational Administration in 2012. Under his guidance, 10 students have completed their doctoral degree. Presently, 6 students are registered under him. He was a member of the Senate, the Maharaja Sahiraja University, from 2012 to 13. Dean of Students from 2007 to 2012. His areas of special interest are educational administration and management, education for sustainable development, community participation for social development, research methodology, organizational development, ICT and e-learning for knowledge management, international cooperation, and comparative education. He has completed a number of collaborative and commissioned research projects both in India and abroad. He has been presenting research and conceptual papers at national and international seminars on various themes. He has to his credit a number of articles in reputed journals of education. He has 5 books to his credit. Firstly, a book titled Value-Based Leadership in Education. The second on ICT in Education. His third on e-learning methodology. Fourth on globalization, a challenge to education management. And fifth, a training package for primary teachers of Northeastern region. He has had a lot of assignments abroad also. He has worked as director in Assumption International University of Thailand during 2005-2006. He received fellowship from Stockholm University and John King University of Sweden in 2007 and 2010. He got Erasmus Mundus Visiting Professor Fellowship from RS University in Denmark in 2012. He has attended Advanced International Training Program on Education from Swedish International Development Agency in the year 2011. Professor Karna Pushpanathan is currently working on projects like a study on perception of students on assessment practices, digital repository on researchers in education management, development of book online courses, case studies of successful women in education management, a study on career aspirations of women in higher education, interdisciplinary research in education management, academic management in universities of Northeast regions of India, teaching and learning in Indian higher education. I'm sure we shall get a delightful experience of listening to him. At this point, I would request the participants to put their questions and queries in the chat box so that at the end of the session, we will be able to answer those. Thank you so much. Over to you, Rishi sir. May I request Pushpanathan sir to begin his lecture? you're muted.
Good afternoon, good morning, and my best wishes of the day. Today is a very auspicious day. We celebrate in Indian tradition the Guru Purnima. So I send my respects to all the teachers, the gurus, for their unconditional efforts to the learners to make this world a better place to live. So I wish you all a very, very happy Guru Purnima. Let me congratulate the Navratna University, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. Nilay Yajnik, my good friend, Dr. Xavier, and also my colleagues, those who are currently with Navratna University, for choosing a very right theme for discussing with the educators. Friends, we consider ourselves as pedagogues. A pedagogue is the one who practices pedagogy, the art of teaching, continuously engaged in promoting learning in students. And thereby, anything that happens around us is of a great importance to know, to understand, to internalize, to reflect, and then try to apply to our professional context. And this is how the professional journey of any pedagogue actually takes place. These computers, internet, the World Wide Web, all these things have actually happened in my journey of learning. I still remember those days when we need to stand in a queue to make an international call. You call it as a trunk call, a ISD call. And today, you sit in your room and you make a call and you need not pay anything. It's absolutely free. So the technological innovations that happened across the globe with the help of the continuous intellectual pursuits of human beings and making them useful to human life and living. These things have really fascinated me to really look into the kind of developments happening around and try to understand and how these things can be brought into pedagogy, teaching, learning, education. And friends, it's a great learning experience, which I would like to share with you today. It was in 2019, the UNESCO came out with a report, a very interesting report. And the report says, the title of the report is The Futures of Learning. And when the chairman of that report committee says he has purposefully coined futures as a plural, not as a singular. The futures means multiple futures, divergent futures, the divergent opportunities that the several innovations that are taking place around in all spheres of society, how they can really contribute to education and development. And based on this report, there was a global debate on how knowledge, education, learning that we are actually concerned with can be reimagined in the world that we are living, which is essentially characterized by complexity, uncertainty, and precarity. And they coined a very important aspect that strengthening education as a global common good is the essence of education world over. Friends, this particular line really touched me. We must position knowledge, education, learning, and strengthen it as a global common good. Which means we need to make use of all kinds of advancements taking place around, all kinds of knowledge which is accessible around, and try to bring it to the classrooms at our local level, and then bring a kind of a qualitative transformation in education system. Therefore, what is happening today is across the globe, the educators, the pedagogues are trying to reimagine education, trying to reposition education into the kind of changes that are actually happening. Friends, we are experiencing the changes. Sometimes we get shocked. See that the Deep Blue was a machine, I'm sure that all of you know about it, which had happened somewhere in 1997. The Deep Blue actually won the international game. The chess champion of the world, the Garry Kasparov, was defeated with the intellectual moves of the Deep Blue, which was developed by artificial intelligence. And in 2016, the most intelligent game that we consider is the Go game, AlphaGo. And this AlphaGo artificial intelligence device defeated Lee Sedol, a world champion in the game. We could experience a confrontation of human beings with the machines that we have created by ourselves. And today we are also experiencing the Apple's Siri. You open an Apple iPod and just request to Siri, you would like to know what is the temperature in United States of America, in a city like New York. And the Siri will give you the world information, could understand what you speak, could understand your intentions, could make a search and find out and respond to your answers. The Amazon Alexa is also a very, very popular that you could see the videos. And in the airline systems, you have automated speech language. You don't need somebody to speak, but everything is properly recorded, programmed, and things comes to you with utmost rigor and also perfection. Friends, today we don't need to learn more languages. Of course, learning more languages are very, very important. But we have Google Translator to translate any text that you have into the kind of language that you are intended to translate and communicate. And we also have a global position system. You just book your Zomato, and the Zomato fellow will absolutely reach to your home with GPS system and knock your doorbell and it delivers the material. So gone are all those days where every aspect or every work has to be done by humans, by themselves. So today in the 21st century, human beings have reached to a different level, and the level of making use of their knowledge, their wisdom, convert them into a meaningful, useful devices to make their life much easier, comfortable, and to have the time to think about the higher order, other domains of knowledge. And that's how the human society progresses over a period of time. So what I mean to impress at this juncture is that all these developments that we are talking about, as Professor Nilay Yagnik rightly said, the cybernetics, which was discussed somewhere in 1960s, 1950s, or the thinking machines, which were conceptualized in the minds of those computer specialists. And friends, today, we could see them in reality. So I remember a beautiful saying in the Nobel Museum. In Stockholm city, there is a wonderful Nobel Museum which actually presents all the histories of the great scholars in various subjects. So the moment you enter, you find a wonderful statement. It says, what you see today was once imagined. What a wonderful statement, my friends. I must salute the human brain and human continuous pursuit for knowledge creation, value creation. So what we see today was once imagined. So the power of imagination, creativity, innovation are something which are very relevant to education today. It is through education we train the minds, get into different frames of minds, and develop this curiosity, the thinking, and those things result into what we are experiencing today. And therefore, the contributions of the last century is what we are using now. And we have the responsibility of creating several things of this kind to pass it on to our next generation. And therefore, we always talk in terms of education for sustainable development, which passes the accumulated knowledge, values, skills from one generation to another generation, and thereby education institutions play a very, very important role. Friends, in this process, what happened? We could see the 4 industrial revolutions. And all these industrial revolutions also brought some kind of contribution to educational system. And these industrial revolutions, the 4 industrial revolutions, what we are experiencing today is the 4th industrial revolution. And each revolution brought changes in the perspective, practices, approaches. And if we coined 1765 as the first revolution, that we could find the mechanization, the steam engine was invented. Then the continuous intellectual curiosity led in 1870 to find out the electricity, electrical power, and then gone for mass productions. And somewhere in 1969, when Professor Nilay Yagnik was talking about the cybernetics, that was the time when a lot of research was developed in electronics, information technologies. We could go on towards the automation, automated production with 0 defects, because it is the machine who actually does the work. And a lot of economic imperatives were seen. Friends, today we are actually undergoing this new technological, what you call the 4th revolution. And the 4th revolution is artificial intelligence. It's not only the artificial intelligence, we also must have come across the word IoT, Internet of Things. We are talking about the Internet of the behaviors. And friends, a lot of research is conducted to come out with the Internet of everything, which is going to be the future. And the future is not very far. Which means we began Internet, and then Internet of Things is connecting 2 devices, 2 machines. You have a mobile connected to the air conditioner at your home. So the Internet of Things essentially talks about connecting the devices. And Internet of behaviors, consumer behavior, spending behavior, marketing behavior. So friends, we are actually amid of these new technologies. And these new technologies sometimes make us so depressed. Sometimes as educators, we become so much skeptic. And the skepticism is to what extent these technologies can really help us to do the task which we supposed to do in our institutions. Friends, I recommend a wonderful book. When the industries have seen changes from first revolution to second revolution to third revolution to today 4th, and could experience the profits, global positioning, and the wealth creation. We could see the young people becoming wealthier in the knowledge-based society when they are making use of the kind of technological advancements that are taking place. So friends, the book by Selden, Anthony Selden, talks about the fourth education revolution and poses a question to all of us. We have been talking about artificial intelligence, but will artificial intelligence liberate or infantilize humanity? This is a kind of question usually comes to our mind as pedagogues. And the moment you go through this book, talks about how the education system has changed over a period of time, but still how our commitments to education, especially in Asia, and how these commitments are still remained as commitments. Whether you talk in terms of universal access, you talk about the universal enrollments, you talk about the quality learning outcomes, you talk about the affordability of education. Friends, these things still remain as unfulfilled agenda in education policies. The reason probably is the extent to which we adopt new technologies into education is slow when we compare to the industrial sector. So if you read the book, he finally says, it is the education which is important. The approaches can be anything if they really contribute to educational goals and objectives. Every educator needs to equip these skills and practice in the classrooms. And friends, the destiny of any nation is shaped in its classrooms, and the teachers are very vital in this process. And therefore, the artificial intelligence, the technological advancements, the democratization of technology, how these things really contributing to education and how education can be beneficial from these developments. I would like to present some of the things. Maybe in the first part, let us discuss about what is this artificial intelligence about. And the later course of time, we discuss about how this can be applied to education and the cost effectiveness and the kind of leadership that is required in the institutions of learning today. Friends, we have been navigating through multiple worlds. Really. If you position yourself today in that particular room, you have a real world where you interact with people physically. The physical reality, what you perceive, what you conceptualize, and the way that you make meanings out of it. And our cultural, social, many settings are actually in that web. Friends, we also must realize that we are not only in the real world always, we also spend most of our time, a very significant time, in digital world as well. And during the COVID time, COVID-19, the pandemic time, this time has been multiplied in threefold, fourfold. We started living in digital world, talking to each other, communicating to each other. Everything was on the digital world. And the third one is the virtual world. We are creating a kind of a virtual world. You talk about virtual realities, augmented realities, where you can see the Louvre Museum in France, the Da Vinci Code's wonderful painting of Mona Lisa by sitting in the room. So the question is, if we still believe with the real world interactions, neglecting the power of digital and virtual world, which are certainly the creation of our minds, which are the gifts of our previous generation to us to make use of in a very meaningful way. I think this is where we need to begin as educators to bring these ideas into educational processes that we are actively engaged in. So what is happening now? We are very familiar with these things: automation, digitization, data analytics, cloud computing, robotics, virtual reality, augmented reality, 3D printing. Friends, don't think that they are the subjects of computer science alone. They are the subjects of common good. Why? Because these subjects have something to contribute to industry, business, health, community development, individual survival. And therefore, directly, indirectly, we are actually interacting with or experiencing these developments that are taking place. So, how can we close our eyes and continue our educational processes, what we have been doing since ages? Friends, at this juncture, we must realize that tomorrow's problems cannot be addressed with yesterday's knowledge. The yesterday's knowledge may not be adequate to address tomorrow's issues, challenges. Therefore, what is required is to adopt. What is required is to be open-minded. What is required is to understand and instill in our educational processes. That's what the educational response to the technological innovations, what is required in the institutions. So what are our educational responses to technological advancements, disruptive technologies, in terms of reimagining educational process, in terms of reforming educational policies? Do we think that these things have nothing to do with the educational system? Friends, we need to think today on these aspects, how we can leverage the potential of these advancements which are there, are used by the other sector. How can we bring it to our professional practices? So most of the time, what happened, after listening to the automation, digitization, data analytics, cloud computing, robotics, virtual reality, we land up with VUCA. You know, VUCA is a very popular acronym that was given by Warren Bennis, a management guru. Warren Bennis. And he coined this VUCA somewhere in 1900s when US war was with the USSR, United States of Sovereign Russia. He says, most of the time, we fail to respond to the emerging circumstances, situations, and then we land up in a position like VUCA: volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. And friends, my question to all of you is whether education system is in VUCA that not really coping up with the kind of rapid changes happening, the uncertainty, the complexity, and ambiguity. And this has to be the point of journey to all of us today. So whether artificial intelligence as a disruptive technology can really transform this VUCA into something else. Friends, let us see what actually this is all about. You know, the intelligence is a very, very favorite word to all teachers, education institutions. We want to make our learners intelligent. We hold this word to our heart as an educator. And we define this as a kind of higher abilities, such as abstract reasoning, problem solving, decision making, the ability to learn emotional knowledge, creativity, adaptation to meet the demands of the environment. If all these things are existing in an individual, we call him as intelligent. And one of the very important objectives of education system is to create an intelligent society. We need to invigorate the qualities of intelligence in individuals through our interactions by providing meaningful learning resources to everyone. And let me take you a little bit historical development of this intelligence. I'm sure those who are actually in the education domain, they understand how this intelligent theories, intelligent quotients. Friends, somewhere in 1800, the Francis Galton, who was the cousin of Charles Darwin, and he wanted to study the people of the intelligence, you know. He wanted to measure the qualities of a gifted individuals and how it is related to the general mental abilities of biological evolution. And then over a period of time, there were a lot of discussions about the human intelligence was thoroughly discussed, criticized. And the psychologists have conflicting ideas about it. Some researchers argue that intelligence is a general ability, whereas others make assertion that intelligence comprises specific skills and talents. And some says it is an inherited aspect. And others claim it is largely influenced by surrounding environment. So a lot of discussions happened when we try to conceptualize what a human intelligence is all about. And I'm sure today we are all familiar with the Gardner's multiple intelligences. You say intelligence is not one. We have 8 multiple intelligences. We also are familiar with emotional intelligence, social intelligence, spiritual intelligence, when we are talking about human intelligence, it is so much of complex to define, conceptualize. Yet we are actually engaged in developing intelligence in our children through our curricular processes. But today we are talking about the artificial intelligence. Friend, this artificial something which we basically dislike. Personally, we dislike. Why? We want a natural feeling, a natural expression, not artificial. But let us see that how this artificial, which is not something is liked by educators, is linked as a prefix to your liking, intelligence. So how this artificial linked to intelligence together is creating vibrance, is creating vibrations in the society, in the world, and bringing a lot of changes across the globe. So friends, when you talk about artificial, it is something produced by human art or effort. It is produced by you and me with our intellectual efforts, with our knowledge, wisdom. But it is not something which is originating naturally. But when you talk about intelligence, is the ability to acquire knowledge and use it. Use it in an appropriate manner. Use it in an ethical manner. Use it by keeping human well-being into your center focus. So mixing up these two, as artificial intelligence is the study of ideas that enable computers to be intelligent. So the creation of human beings, which is a computer, and to empower computer to be intelligent as human beings. The idea was, if we can transfer some of our responsibilities to the machine, probably we will have a space to do something more. That is the kind of an idea with which the whole theory of what you call thinking machines, the whole idea of the cybernetics was originated. Now the question was whether computers can be empowered, whether computers can be made enabled to be intelligent as human beings. This was an idea which was generated somewhere in 1960s, 1970s. And friends, by the time the domain of psychology, the domain of neurosciences, the domain of computer programming have made significant developments in the area. We could see how the brain functions. We could critically analyze the left and right hemispheres, what happens in the brain, their thinking process. And the computer systems started looking into the programming. Sensors have came into existence. So with help of all the domains, their intellectual pursuits of that time created an opportunity to design computers with intelligence, to create computers who can take responsibility to perform certain activities with the same kind of an intelligence that individual usually perform. So how it was all happened? Friends, the basic the areas that artificial intelligence basically work in a closed network is the ability to search. Today we have search engines, and it is so naturally that we are using that whenever a question that comes to us, and when we are not aware of the answer, we immediately get into the search engines, Google down. Computers try to locate the data which is actually presented. Therefore, the one thing which is very important for artificial intelligence is data, big data, capturing data, and presenting data with the logic. The computers have logic. Through programming, we can empower computers to be logical. And the computers can develop certain patterns of the knowledge, classifications, categorizations of knowledge, and also representing in iconic forms, symbolic forms, which you call it as the knowledge representation. And friends, the computer science have actually gone into the level of natural language processing. The computer can understand what you speak and then accordingly start searching, use the internal built logic, and represent the kind of patterns, classifications in an order. And that's how it takes certain kind of decisions, and those decisions absolutely meet our intentions and demands. Therefore, when you talk about the artificial intelligence, we are talking about it is a human-like intelligence in our thinking, in our behavior, modeling that can happen in the computer technologies. So today they recognize what you call the vision, the object, the detection. The machines can move. It was in newspaper a couple of days back that the robot that is developed by some student in one university will be applied in the COVID wards in Baroda Medical Sayaji Hospital. See, in the time of pandemic situation, the mobility of a machine, an intelligent machine, help us to handle the pandemic situations, which is good for human beings, which is good to handle the situations. So friends, these are the kind of things that actually happens in artificial intelligence machines that you talk about. It is the data that is created, captured, presented, and it is the language processing that happens, and the video image recognitions, the mobility, understanding the language. And most of these provisions that were developed are absolutely used in industrial sector. So with this kind of an artificial intelligence which is created by human mind, can be classified into these 5 different what you call the dimensions. Today when you talk about artificial intelligence, the one branch of artificial intelligence is analytic artificial intelligence. So this analytic artificial intelligence can do the what is sentiment analysis, supplier risk assessments. They do a kind of data analytics, which is a new branch which is actually coming up. And the National Education Policy 2020 clearly mentioned that we need to incorporate artificial intelligence, the data analytics, the 3D printing, which are the emerging areas of knowledge that has to be integrated into education system. The second branch of artificial intelligence is functional artificial intelligence that can be used in our day-to-day life. Talking about Internet of Things, talking about the robotic technologies, where we can make our responsibilities much easier and transfer our responsibility to machines. And the third branch is interactive artificial intelligence. You have chatbots, smart personal assistants, voice assistants. You can open the microphone of your mobile and instruct to give a call to Mr. X and friends, and that interactive device will give a call to the person that you really want to talk. And if you want to translate what you speak into a different language, the text artificial intelligence and the visual artificial intelligence is the computer vision augmented realities. I am extremely happy to tell you today that we have made significant progress in all these 5 domains of artificial intelligence. And not only significant development, but we are using these things into more industrial sector. And today we are actually trying to apply these into education as well. The analytics, functional, interactive, the text, and the vision that computers identify the objects, the localities. So friends, machines can do these things effectively with rigor and with perfection. And probably sometimes the human beings may not be able to do with that kind of precision. If we properly program the technology and use it in a more systematic way, it gives the better results. So what is required is to tame the technology, tap the technology. We need to have the human machine interface. We are not in 2 different worlds, and the world of the machine is nothing but the invention of human mind. Therefore, we need to have a proper interface into human and machine, which is actually required. So what is that interface which is very much important? It's all about thinking and acting. So to what extent human thinks, how human beings think, and how human beings act. So taking these two things into consideration, the modeling, mathematical modeling, computational modeling, based on the big data, our computer scientists, along with neurosciences, psychologists, sociologists, anthropologists, it is the fine mix of a multidisciplinary knowledge domain could create a system that thinks optimally, a system that thinks like humans, a system that acts optimally, and the system that acts like humans. When you talk about act like human optimally, probably there is a limit for human beings in physical. But using optimally of a computer devised artificial intelligence, probably we could see the usage optimally. So friends, there are several benefits of this technology, and how we can really leverage these potentials into education is something that we need to think today. So the systems that act like humans, we could experience the kind of developments that took place, and we are experiencing in a much wider way. Whether you talk about NLP, the natural language processing for communication with humans, the knowledge representation to store information effectively and efficiently. The large number of information is stored systematically with one fingertip. A touch, you get the information that you want. And automated reasoning to retrieve and answer questions using the stored information. And the machine learning, the adapt to new circumstances. These are the advancements that already took place in the computer sciences. The computers are capable of performing this today. So friends, we have systems that act like humans. And we also have the systems that think like humans. With the logic, they can think rationally. Systems can think logically. And I'm using the word ethically also here. I know that the questions come from this aspect. To what extent a machine can be ethical? But we have created systems that can think like humans optimally. So the ethical aspect of a computer, which is on a wider debate today, I'm sure that also will be resolved in the years to come. Our intellectual pursuits are actually focused to create a kind of a machine who can take the ethical based decision making. I think those days are also not very far. We can see how these machines can actually act like human beings and minimize our responsibilities and give us space to think on much wider emerging areas of knowledge and wisdom. So Rishi, we have a little more time. Rishi?
Yes, sir. You can take few more minutes.
And
It's fine,
thank you so much.
Yeah.
So friends, with this kind of the system of artificial intelligence we are talking about, how it can be applied to education is the question. The first thing is the data, big data. And from the big data, capturing the big data, with help of the devices, and how the data can be used for data analytics. This subject has grown for the last almost a decade. And we know with help of statistics we do manually. I understand those who are doing PhDs somewhere in 1980s and beginning of 90s, the data analysis was absolutely by hand. And today we are very lucky that you feed the data to SPSS, and with one click you get your data is analyzed. So the big data, cloud computing, data analytics as a branch has grown. So if it has grown, what is the implication to education? What is the kind of data that we have within the education landscape, within the education ecosystem? And the moment we use learning analytics, analyzing that data, how do we can improve the system of education is the question. Can we? The friends I put before the faculty of education today, from the ages we have been talking about the sampling procedure in research, and we teach our students, we are actually taking sample because handling a population is difficult. And that's what the very fundamental reason that we give for sampling procedure. And therefore, we need to take utmost care that the sample must represent the population if you really want to have the generalized findings. So today, imagine a device can handle the big data where the whole census could be a part of your analysis. Where is your sampling procedure? And the data is available and the whole data can be handled. Friends, we really need to rethink and reimagine even our research processes that we have been adopting over the ages. So what is this learning analytics all about? Collecting, capturing the data with regard to the education ecosystem in terms of through dashboards in the learning management systems, the student information systems. We call it as the life cycle of the student, the educational life cycle, right from the student enrolling into a program to undergoing different kinds of learning experiences till completes a program, and then employability and the progression. We can have a large number of data with regard to students. We also can have data with regard to student risk models. In which particular situation student find it difficult to understand, conceptualize, and perform. And we can also have the learning record stores, their achievements in specific subjects, in specific terms, and also the kind of the learning systems that they are actually choosing while interacting with the artificial intelligence devices. Friends, if we can capture this particular data of large number of students that we interact with over a period of time, this enormous data will give us a lot of inferences. We can make a lot of predictions. We can design certain need-based, customized, appropriate strategies for students. We can offer the appropriate learning approach style So what is happening today? The educational ecosystem has not seriously put efforts to capture the data, learning analytics in education. We have realized this significantly when you talk in terms of the data-based things that the government is realizing today. We have UDIS, Unified District Information Systems in Education, which is a very good initiation by the government of India, where the large number of data about the schools are collected, preserved, and can be used to make what you call the data-based decision-making process. So when you talk about UDIS, you see the number of schools, number of teachers, number of classrooms, enrollment ratio, dropout ratio, the gender discrepancies. And we have the national assessment surveys in terms of their marks in specific subjects over a period of time. You know, these things are already initiated in our country. We have data bank at the national level. And friends, similar kind of data banks we also have at the global level. The UNESCO has a global database with regard to education. Whether you talk about the educational management, you talk about student assessments, you talk about the infrastructure facilities, you talk about the teacher competencies, we have a large number of data available. So what do they do? So they capture the data pertaining to a particular domain, and with the help of the data analytics, what they do a systematic analysis, predict, infer, and then use it for policy making. So friends, this learning analytics is an area of research, both at the university level, where how this big data can be generated, curated, used, and could see the impact of this data into the system at large. So when you see the analysis of data analytics, see, our purpose is to translate this information into optimization. So what we do in the process, we begin with the hindsight to foresight. We begin the process from the hindsight to insight and then foresight. By doing the descriptive analytics, diagnostic analytics, predictive analytics, and the prescriptive analytics. You know, the descriptive is the hindsight, what had already gone, what happened in the past. And diagnostic is why did it happen? And what will happen is the predictive. And ultimately, we are translating the data that we collected in terms of the learners and the learning behaviors, and convert them into prescriptive analytics. How can we make it happen with the help of the data? And that's very much possible with artificial intelligence and data analytics. So friends, I recommend to my colleagues that in education, we must put a step forward. We need to have the forward thinking in terms of the data analytics, learning analytics, leading to the effective educational management, which is an area of concern today. As I said, the educational data science is at a point of transition, with focus turning from analytics for data collected by individual tools towards analysis of student behavior across learning ecosystems, consisting of a wide range of tools. When the learner is exposed to a learning management system, his engagement to the system can be properly recorded, and the data can be identified. Which particular site, how much time, what difficulty, at what time, what learning approach. Friends, all these data can be used for the predictive analytics, which can help us to prescribe the learning models that suits to individual needs. This is one important area that artificial intelligence can be used very effectively in education. The second important aspect is the personalized, customized learning. Today we are talking about differentiated instruction, differentiated assessments, differentiated learning resources. As pedagogues, we know that individual learning differences. No two learners are the same. They are different in their approach. They're different in their thinking. But what we do in the classrooms, we try to fit one hat in all heads. Silently we do it. Am I right, Nilay Saab? What we do, we try to put one hat into all heads. And then we recommend several what we call excuses. Because of this, we could not do it. So friends, today we are living in the knowledge-based society, technology-driven society. And the moment you understand and apply artificial intelligence, you can design personalized, customized learning that each individual is having a tutor. Your artificial intelligence is the tutor. It actually, it's not following, but it is a hand-holding process. So artificial intelligence can assist every learner by keeping their pace of learning. So this is one important aspect that we can very much apply to educational system, where you talk about the equity in learning process. We want no child left behind is our principle. Education for all is our principle. So how education can be all when we follow a very simple single approach to education? When we know the gifted children, when we know the children with learning difficulties, we know the special children, and we understand the diversity of learners and the learning contexts. The learning contexts are also divergent in this country. A lot of difference you find in rural, urban. Even within urban societies, you also see a lot of diversity in terms of resources. So friends, the use of artificial intelligence can address our national education policy principles. 2020 talks about access, equity, quality, and affordability in education. The moment you talk about access, equity, quality, affordability, our aim is to become global knowledge power. And the global knowledge power is possible when we give individuals learning opportunities according to their pace of learning. And we have promises from artificial intelligence. Friends, it also aids the educators in administrative tasks. I know the screen is not clear because it is something that I have taken from the McKinsey company. McKinsey is a company who produces the fine documents on global research. So I thought this is a very meaningful to share with you how the artificial intelligence aids educators in administrative tasks. There was a research conducted in United States, even United States. And the research is how much time teachers actually work. What is their work distribution in terms of time? And they found, on an average, a teacher in a school works about 50 hours per week. I think probably it is the same in India as well. Our teachers work almost 43 hours a week, 42, 43 hours a week. And then the study actually talks about how much time they spend in this 50 hours of in a week. And they categorize the direct interaction with the learners and the indirect administrative responsibilities. Friends, they found the activity composition of teachers for 50 hours of teaching in a week. They spend some time in preparation. They spend some time in evaluation. They spend some time in professional development. They spend some time in administrative responsibilities. Then student interactions and engagement, student councils and well-being. These were the tasks they actually do. And the research says only 49% of the time teachers spend on the direct interaction with the learners. And we know the direct interaction of the learners really enhance the learning outcomes. Therefore, the question is, in which particular activities they spend the remaining 51%? In preparation of the lesson plans and notes, etc., the evaluation activities, progress report preparation, professional development of teachers. And the research also says in a funny way that hardly they get time. They spend something like 2 to 3% of their time for professional development. So 2 to 3% of professional development of a teacher, you imagine he is actually practicing with the yesterday's knowledge with today's children. So the research is, if the application of artificial intelligence can reduce the workload of teachers to 20 to 30%, they save 20 to 30% of the time of their administrative responsibilities. And they can spend more time with direct teacher student interactions in the classrooms. So friends, these devices have the capacity to aid educators in administrative tasks as well. And what are those? Applying automation. Even this automation can minimize your financial imperatives as well. The voice assistants, responding to your parents, responding to your communities. That can minimize a lot of many things, communicational gaps, everything can be. And visualizers. Visualizers, softwares, free softwares are available where the data presentations, even we have the chart visualizers, how many words you use, they visualize to a certain extent. How many sentences you used it, how many words you used, what is the frequent word that you used it. It's very interesting. If you want to visualize your chart on your WhatsApp for 1 week with your friends, colleagues, that will give you a lot of insight about your mode of communication, the words that you are frequently using it, the meaning that you are actually communicating, and the behavioral aspects of yours. Friends, certainly we can make use of these things. There are several free softwares available. If I ask you a question, how many of us are really using the Google applications that we have? You know, Google have several the applications, provisions given to us. Google Forms, Google Docs, Google Translator. The moment you click on your computer where the dots are put in a square form, you get all kind of provisions. They are applied with the artificial intelligence. They are free for us. The only thing is we need to understand what they are and try to apply into our professional context. We need to have that willingness to learn and apply, which is a very, very important thing. And friends, with artificial intelligence, we also can have a smart content. Today, we are talking about smart boards. Even we are talking about the smart cities. What is that smart city is all about? It is the interconnectedness of the things, the people, the behaviors, only to make life much easier. And the well-being of human beings is the prime. So friends, the smart content can be created with the intelligent devices. We can have a lot of digital learning resources in video form, audio form, the interactive form. We can create a lot of knowledge repositories in the form of, open courseware and open educational resources, which are absolutely free. But the question is, how many of us really look into these repositories and create our subject specific, the class specific, the knowledge repositories within the subject division or within the university level? How many universities have really created these knowledge repositories? We promote a lot of research through dissertations, through doctoral dissertations, research projects. Do we have a knowledge repository created at the university level? Thereby, that can be disseminated, that can be used for further. So friends, the smart content in terms of OER and MOOCs, these were the provisions. The technology has already created the technological appliances. And now we need to get into, hold it into, and then practice into our professional practices, which is a very, very important. Therefore, you can make a smart content, thereby you make a smart learner. And for that, you need to become a smart educator. If we cannot be smart educators in understanding and applying, we cannot make any smart content and we cannot develop any smart learners. Friends, this artificial intelligence can be used in 3 different levels. One is the artificial intelligence directed instructional process where the learner is a recipient, which is a very, very the basic level. Okay, learner is just a recipient and is at the receiving end. Maybe to begin with, and then we can take to a next level as artificial intelligence supported learning environment, where the learner is collaborating with the device. So the knowledge construction process, the constructivist pedagogy can be applied into that learning paradigm. And the third one is AI-empowered learning systems, where the learner is the leader, where he plans and he makes use of artificial intelligence and he designs, and that leads to innovation and creativity. So we have opportunities in educational system to think about these 3 learning paradigms, to begin with the artificial directed, where the learner is the recipient, artificial supported, where the learner is collaborator, and at the university level, I think we must have the artificial enabled, where the learner is the leader of the learning process. This is what is required. We have several studies talking about learner self-paced learning, learner initiated learning process, and these things have better learning outcomes. Friends, with this, I'm coming to the last slide. You remember I began initially about what Warren says. We began with a world with complexity, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity. And all these things can be translated, transformed with help of our academic leadership in the institutions, as teachers, as administrators. We can translate the volatility into vision, uncertainty into understanding, complexity into clarity, and ambiguity into adaptability. So the moment we adopt to new technologies, understand their applications, create a vision for institutions, and having our own clarity, and certainly we can bring change in our education system, and that is the fourth revolution in education that we are actually looking forward. And if we want this fourth revolution to happen in education, the leadership matters. And the leadership is at individual level and at the institutional level. With this, I stop my presentation, and I hand over to the organizers. If there is any question, or certainly we can discuss on it. Thank you very much. Over to organizers.
Thank you, Professor Pushnathan. We are really enlightened with your knowledge and presence. Over to you, Webvi and Dr. Sangeeta for question answer session.
I'm unable to see Vaibhavi here. He's preparing the chat questions.
Yeah, I think she is coming back.
She lost connection.
Yes, Webvi madam.
I think Vaibhavi is busy, has some problem with her technical thing. I think I'll just read out a question that has been asked by one of our students, Rupa Bokre. And she asks us, how do we handle data privacy if all students' information is available? So can you throw some light on it?
Yeah, this is a very, very important question. When we venture into new domains of knowledge, please remember, we also need to face certain developmental challenges. And these challenges can be better addressed with us because we have that human intelligence. Today, Pegasus, I'm sure that we are all familiar with this Pegasus, the case which is appearing in newspaper about tapping the communications and then leading to many things. So how to handle this, the privacy, the data privacy? The institutional policies is number one. The institutional policies can be designed keeping into the mind of several individual provisions in terms of their rights, whether you talk about constitutional rights or the fundamental rights. And taking a concerted effort, keeping into the benefits of this data for self and the society, certainly these things can be better addressed. The moment you have the misusing of the data of a student, of a teacher, of anybody, you know, all of a sudden you receive a phone call from somebody else and asking about your interest to purchase a building, apartment, and you really wonder how the data is reached to them. So whether you agree or disagree, there is nothing right private today. The moment you log into your computer, your data is on, and people know. So what I mean to say is the using of that data, whether it is for the benefit of the individuals or for the exploitation of the individual, is the prime concern. Therefore, the cyber ethics is something which is very, very important, that need to be discussed, that need to be imbibed at all levels of the educational system. So how to mine the data and how to use the data for the welfare and not for the exploitation is a great concern. Friends, I must tell you today, the University Grants Commission has made it compulsory to all the research scholars to undergo a 2-credit, what you call it as the academic ethics course, publication ethics course. You know why? Because the problem of plagiarism. And the problem of plagiarism is there because there is a possibility of what you call copying things from here and there without properly acknowledging. So they are trying to imbibe the qualities of ethical practice. So what I mean to say is, when we are using a particular data for a very concrete beneficial purpose, the institutional ethical policies can be well designed and systematically implemented, and these issues can be absolutely resolved. They can be a major problem at all. Thank you. Hope I answered. Yeah.
Thank you
Thank
for
you, Dr. Sangeeta. Vebbi, madam, over to you.
Yes, yes, sir. Thank you, sir, for sharing that insight on the question. We have 2 to 3 questions combined. Since many of the teachers and many of the participants are asking, I think, a question which is, addressing today's scenario, which is, this question is from Priyanka, Sherlin, Tejal, and Rupa Bokhre. And they ask that,
They are all known names.
yeah, they are all students as well as some of the participants. But I've clubbed this question since it is talking about the same concern. It says that, isn't AI a threat to human skills and talents? And how will AI complement human intelligence? Will it support humans or will it replace the teachers? And if it's so, if it replaces the teachers, will it affect the employment that we are seeing in the economy? Since AI-enabled jobs will be something that will be uh, in something that is demanded for. Will it replace teachers and will it affect employment then? Over to you.
Yeah, very, very good question, in the sense, a very a common question that one should ask at this platform. And the names that you mentioned are very familiar names to me. Friends, there is nothing to worry about what you call the cut down in employability and the artificial intelligence devices take over, robotics will take over, and teachers will go away. Rather, it is an opportunity for individuals to think on new domains of learning and innovation. What you said is right. You know, the skill set of the 21st century are not the skill set of 20th century. So what used to be a skill that humans need to do, which was in 20th century, are taken by the automation. Therefore, what is the implication? The implication is tap the opportunities that are available, continuously update your new ideas, skills, and knowledge, and venture into new domains of knowledge and wisdom and skills. And certainly, humans are very, very important in every aspect of human life, in any sector of economy. But the moment you say that, no, I don't want to improve myself, I continue with what I've been doing over the years. And if the machine can do that much efficiently with perfection, you just ask a question to yourself, what is the need of yours in the institution? Therefore, what is required is you must explore into the new areas and development, put your professional journey into the developments taking place across, and thereby your existence is of great value to any institution that you talk about. It's not a threat. I consider it as an opportunity. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir, for sharing that insight again. And I hope we are answering the questions asked by many of the participants. One more question from our YouTube link, one who's on YouTube. He's Bharat Gopani, and he's doing his research on artificial intelligence and machine learning, he says. And he's saying that from NEP point of view, machine learning and AI would be integrated into the curriculum of 6th graders as well. So he asks, how can AI be integrated at such a primary level? That is his concern and question.
Yes, let me congratulate the scholar for working in this area of artificial intelligence, which is the area of the century. See, the idea of NEP 2020 suggested the many things for reforming education. And we need to understand that we got this policy after 35 years of the previous policy, after 1996. And a lot many developments that took place. And you also need to understand the policy that you see today is not for today's sake, which is a very, very important. The policy is not for today's sake alone, and the policy has a futuristic perspective. The way in which the technological innovations are taking place, the information generation is taking place, education system also need to be faced with the development that's taking place. Therefore, you as a teacher, an educator, you decide the level of the content, the depth of the content which is required for a grade 6 student. What he needs to develop initially, understanding the basic, conceptually developing, thinking towards such kind of advancements. I think that is the point which we need to think about. I welcome the idea of the education policy of introducing these things into curriculum at school level and also at the university level. It also talks about the multidisciplinary approach. It talks about the technology integrated education. It talks about data analytics. But friends, it is you and me, it is our responsibility to design it in such a meaningful way. Therefore, as and when the learner grows from one grade to another grade, he actually understands, and his thinking basically happens in that perspective, which is very, very important. So there is nothing to worry, and the scholars like you should really think on the pedagogical approaches and processes of introducing these the emerging areas of knowledge meaningfully to the students. Thereby, our responsibility actually come in front. Okay, there's nothing to worry about it. And these ideas are very much welcome and they are very much useful in the future.
Okay. Thank you, sir, again for sharing that answer. We just have 5 minutes left for this session because this link is to be provided to another event as well. So, Rishi, sir, shall we go ahead with one more question or shall we wind up?
I left to the organizers.
Yes, we can take one more question.
Okay, fine, yeah.
Okay,
Just
we can
one
take
more
one more
question.
question. Okay.
Yeah.
Sir, one more question. And this is again from our live YouTube link. And the question is from Shastri Agrawal. She asks, sir, what are the AI directed and AI empowered software applications that we can use in education? If we can cite few examples to her.
Yeah, that's a good question. But Ms. Shastri, let me tell you, you want me to give everything now itself on this platform? I will list it down what is AI directed, AI supported, but rather what I expect from you is to explore by yourself. I have developed a curiosity in you. I told you that such things are available and possible. And I sincerely request you to start your journey of exploration now. Find out what are the free softwares available, how you can use it. And this is what I expect from you. Thank you.
Yeah, I again thank Pushpanadam sir for his reflections, learnings, and the information given in this session. I now ask Dr. Rishiraj Barwalia to propose vote of thanks for the session. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Webby. Yeah. On behalf of School of Liberal Studies and Education, Navrachna University, I take this opportunity to propose vote of thanks to those who have directly and indirectly contributed to this seminar on International Intelligence in Education, organized by Department of Education, Navrachna University, Vadodara. On the outset, I thank our guest, Professor Pushpanathan. It was always a wonderful experience to listen to you, sir. We are really enlightened with your knowledge and presence. We are thankful to our provost, Professor Nila Yagnik, for their motivation and support. I would like to thank Dr. P.V. Xavier, head of the School of Liberal Studies and Education, for his enthusiastic support. We are very thankful to all the faculty members from various parts of the country, principals, the research scholars, future teacher educators, and future teachers, and all the participants. Special thanks to Dr. Dinesh for timely arranging and providing all the necessary technical help. Also, our heartfelt thanks to our students for active participation. Thank you all, and we anticipate similar gestures from all in future. Thank you, and wishing you all a very happy Guru Purnima. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, sir. Professor Pushpanathan, sir. Thank you.